Welcome to this video tutorial for GUIEgg. GUIEgg is an animated user interface system for the Unity game engine. It's designed, and its clear principles are to make the developer's life far simpler in creating their graphical user interface. It also, as a key feature, is got animation, sound and the like just inherently built in. So try to do as much as we can behind the scenes without having to nag, pester or require, mandate that the developer set these values. So most of these interactions can be calculated, and I'll show you how it does it and how easy it is to create a user interface using GUIEgg. GUIEgg can be found on the Asset Store, Unity Asset Store, and information, tutorials and the like can also be found at GUIEgg.com. Okay, so in this video, as I say, we're going to overview an introduction to GUIEgg. I'm going to talk about some of the widgets that are in GUIEgg, some of the controls, and also I'll be looking at how to quickly create a user interface. So to start off with, I have Unity open. This is the free version, so working free or pro, and I've just got an empty scene with no changes been made. The only thing I have done is imported GUIEgg as an asset bundle. So this can be downloaded from the Unity Asset Store. So if I expand GUIEgg, you'll see a folder for tutorials and scenes, scripts, sounds and text. What we'll do is we'll create, using these textures, some sample textures that are part of GUIEgg, I'm going to create a really quick and simple user interface. Okay, so to show you how easy this is, let's open up, go to Window and open up the GUIEgg tool box or palette. I'm going to drag it down bottom right here. If I click on any of these boxes or images, the related widget will appear in my hierarchy of my scene. So start off with an image, nice and simple. This white box here, which is being rendered in the game mode, I'm not having to press play here. It's just being rendered in the editor. I'm able to then select the image and make some basic changes or modifications to this image. So by default, a white texture's been rendered. What I want to do, I'm actually going to select the GUIEgg icon, drag it across as a texture, and now our image is rendering this icon. So great feature is I can change size just by dragging here and placement, and I'm actually going to go for something like actually let's go 50, keep it right up in the corner, and then the size probably 200 would be best. Right. Another feature, a great little feature, is I can go to properties screen and change the anchor point, and this is the point from which its position is calculated. So it can be top left, it can be any one of the four corners of the screen, or in the center. So if I change this to top right, you'll see it now go around each corner, and its position is relative to that, and each widget is able to calculate its position from the specified position on the screen. So it's nice and simple, dynamic, nothing difficult to set up, and save a lot of time over the Unity system and a lot of time over other systems that are designed for a more complicated and sometimes verbose setup or workflow. Okay, so the next simple button. I've got to take this button, I'm going to judge its movement from the top right this time. If I select, let's have the world. I'm going to add the default texture to this button as the world, and you can see that I'm actually able to toggle this button on and off. And its settings when it's off can be varied with this transparency, and the settings when it's on are varied with this transparency. So it's selected and by default or unselected are available there. I can also choose whether this button is toggled or not. It could just be a button that fires an action and isn't toggled. Now, by default in the game mode, I'm not getting any animation, but if I click play, I'm actually able to see that I'm animating between my selected and unselected state, and that all happens when the game is active. So, which is great. I can now change this so it's almost entirely transparent and get a real clear animation on selection without having to really change much at all. Okay, now what I'd like to do is now show you some of the features of the animation. So moving buttons in a menu is probably the best way to go about this. So I'm going to add another button, and this button is going to be a child of the first. So what happens now is this button has automatically worked out that it's because it's a child of the first parent, instead of being in its default location and using that as its anchor point, top left of the screen, it's now going to use the parent as its default location and using the parent's anchor point as the relative calculation starting point of its location. So what does that mean to the developer? Well, it means that all they have to do is drag the button on and that calculation's made. If we set up this button again, what I'll do this time is add some pleasant emblem, and we can change its position. So in this case, will just place this icon below the first. And what we're able to do if we press play, we'll see now some animation. So without any requirement on the developer's part, there's actually animation. So if the parent is clicked, the child will appear or disappear. Now the nice thing about this child is it can have children too. So if we take two more buttons, we can make them both children of the submenu. And now this parent, this submenu acts as a button for the first. So let's do that by changing this to 0, this to 300. You'll see what I'm doing here is I've actually created a parent, a submenu, and then two buttons. If I click on these buttons and give them colors, you can see that we're quickly created here. If I click play, we'll get the full animation. We've quickly created some menu that animates, and the animation is stateful as well. So what I'm going to do is, that's just an introduction of how simple it is to create these user interfaces. As if we go into the tutorials folder and open up the introduction tutorial, I'm not going to save this scene because you'll see that in the introduction tutorial, if I start this up and click on here, you'll see I've created almost the same thing in here, but with more options. I'm going to show you a few of the states that are in here. So first of all, this person row just animates as a button. I click on it and it animates on and off. But if I go to this light bulb, I've actually set these up to be exclusive. So both of them can't be on at the same time. Instead, only one of them is allowed to appear. And now if I go to this third menu, this is non-exclusive but toggleable. So unlike the first, where just an action is undertaken on clicking, in here the button will turn on or off, but not exclusively, so they can all be on, all off, or some on, some off. And finally, I've also added a time bar, so any other widget, not just buttons, but any of these 6 widgets can be added as a child and can be added to this menu. So it's quite dynamic in using all of those. Okay, so finally, in this quick introduction tutorial to show you how GUIEgg works and what it is, I'll click on this object. And I've added just a game object sphere, so it's just a standard sphere. I've placed it there, but I've created a menu, and this menu is here, and all I've done is drag some buttons as children to this menu. I haven't had to specify the location in this menu called a pie menu. I'm not required to specify any further location attributes. Those will be calculated by the pie menu. All it needs is to know how many buttons there are, and it will place them in a circular fashion whenever this game object is clicked. And it does all those events and actions for you. So you're able to quickly create a contextual menu around an asset within your game. Finally, I should point out that during this whole time, events are being created on all of these clicks and states. Really simple event system. So each of these widgets has just a bit of text that describes what it is, and it's set by the developer. And this text is then used to call functions in another object. In this case, I've created a messages object. It's got a very, very simple script on. So it's a really lightweight, simple engine behind it all. It can collect these messages and make calls into your scene. And in my case, I'm just putting a debug message to say that something was clicked and printed. Okay, so this has been a tutorial for GUIEgg. You can go on the Asset Store, download GUIEgg, or you can go to GUIEgg.com, GUIEgg.com, and get more information, more videos,